Hey there, tech enthusiast or sci-fi fan. Let's talk about something that sounds like it jumped straight out of a futuristic blockbuster. Railguns. These aren't your average cannons. They're electromagnetic marvels capable of launching projectiles at hypersonic speeds using nothing but electricity and magnetism. Think of them as the ultimate fusion of physics and firepower. But are railguns the future of warfare, or just another pie-in-the-sky concept that's decades away from practical use? Grab your favorite drink and maybe a snack, and let's break it down. At its core, a railgun is an electromagnetic projectile launcher that uses electricity instead of gunpowder to fire projectiles. Here's how it works. Two parallel metal rails are connected by a power source. A conductive armature, the part holding the projectile, sits between the rails. When an electric current flows through the rails, it creates a magnetic field that interacts with the current in the armature. This interaction generates an immense force, propelling the projectile forward at incredible speeds. The result? A weapon that can launch projectiles at velocities exceeding Mach 6, 6 times the speed of sound, fast enough to hit targets hundreds of miles away in seconds. So why all the hype around railguns? Well, they offer several game-changing advantages over traditional firearms and artillery. Railgun projectiles travel so fast that they don't need explosives to cause massive damage. Their sheer kinetic energy upon impact can obliterate targets, whether they're tanks, bunkers, or even incoming missiles. Plus, railguns have a much longer range than conventional guns, potentially reaching targets up to 200 miles away. Unlike traditional munitions, railgun projectiles don't rely on chemical propellants or explosives. This makes them safer to store and transport, reducing the risk of accidental detonations. Once developed and deployed, railguns could be cheaper to operate than missile systems. Instead of expensive guided missiles, you're firing solid metal slugs that cost a fraction of the price. Railguns aren't limited to land-based applications. They could revolutionize naval warfare by equipping warships with long-range precision weapons. Imagine a destroyer firing dozens of hypersonic rounds without needing to reload. To truly appreciate railguns, we need to geek out a bit on the science. The key principle here is Lorentz force, which describes how electric currents interact with magnetic fields. In simple terms, electric current flows through one rail, across the armature, and back through the other rail. This flow generates a magnetic field perpendicular to the current. The interaction between the magnetic field and the current pushes the armature and the projectile forward. The amount of force depends on the strength of the current and the distance between the rails. To achieve hypersonic speeds, railguns require enormous amounts of electrical power, often delivered by advanced capacitors or generators. Railguns may sound futuristic, but scientists and militaries have been working on them for decades. Here's where things stand today. The U.S. Navy has been leading the charge, pun intended, in railgun development. Since the early 2000s, they've been testing prototypes capable of firing projectiles at speeds over Mach 7. While promising, these tests have faced challenges. Railguns demand massive amounts of energy, which current ships struggle to provide consistently. China hasn't been sitting idle either. Reports suggest they've made significant strides in railgun technology, potentially mounting experimental versions on naval vessels. If true, this could shift the balance of power in future conflicts. Despite progress, railguns still face hurdles. The intense forces involved wear down rail surfaces quickly, requiring frequent replacements. Current battery and capacitor technologies can't sustain continuous operation. Hitting moving targets hundreds of miles away requires precise guidance systems not yet perfected. While railguns are primarily discussed in military contexts, their potential extends far beyond blowing stuff up. Railguns could launch payloads into orbit without the need for expensive rockets. By accelerating spacecraft to escape velocity electromagnetically, we could drastically reduce the cost of space missions. Imagine using railguns to fire heavy projectiles at asteroids headed toward Earth. Their hypersonic impact could nudge dangerous rocks off course, saving humanity from cosmic disaster. Railgun-like technology might one day enable ultra-fast transportation. Picture trains or planes accelerated electromagnetically to hypersonic speeds, cutting travel times dramatically. As with any revolutionary weapon system, railguns raise important ethical and strategic questions. If railguns become widely adopted, they could lower the threshold for conflict. Nations might be more willing to engage in long-range strikes knowing they can hit distant targets with precision. The development of railguns could spark another arms race, particularly among major powers like the US, China, and Russia. Each side would strive to outpace the others, potentially destabilizing global security. Railguns' extreme range means collateral damage could occur far from the battlefield. Accidental strikes on non-combatant areas or misuse by rogue actors could have devastating consequences. Railguns represent a tantalizing glimpse into the future of weaponry and technology. Their ability to deliver unparalleled speed, range, and destructive power makes them a formidable addition to any arsenal. However, practical deployment remains years, if not decades, away due to lingering technical and logistical challenges. Will railguns redefine modern warfare? Or will they remain relegated to research labs and test ranges? Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure, the convergence of electromagnetism and military innovation continues to push the boundaries of what's possible. So, what do you think? Are railguns the dawn of a new era in combat, or are they destined to remain a niche curiosity? Either way, they remind us that the line between science fiction and reality is thinner than ever.